Hi there, I'm Gabe, and breaking the illusion of being a character here, as I seem to be doing more frequently these days, I might have overplayed my hand. But we'll see as this video goes on, won't we? Today's video is about another general tidbit of the universe of the books, so I won't try and play this off as some random character who isn't real and doesn't matter. I'm going to try and give you a general idea of what magical alignment is, how it works, and why it matters. Magical alignment, in the broadest sense of the phrase, is the phenomenon that occurs when carrier cells become specialized at converting raw magic into a specific type of magic, such as fire magic or water magic. This process takes place over several years, generally finishing as a person reaches late adolescence or young adulthood. Since humans are the only animals to consciously use magic, they are the only species observed to have magical alignments. This does not mean that other animals are incapable of becoming magically aligned, only that humans are more instinctually driven towards it. How does magical alignment work? Like, how does a carrier cell go from unspecialized to specialized? Well, unspecialized carrier cells are a lot like stem cells in that there are ideas about how the specialization process works, but nobody can definitively explain it. There are some questions as to what is more influential in the alignment process, the genetics of the person in question or the environment in which they're raised. As with most nurture versus nature questions, it's a mixed bag of answers. Since I mentioned it first, of course we'll be going into how genetics plays a role in alignment. Example number 1. Two hydromancers get together and do whatever it is that makes a baby. Makes a blood sacrifice to the stork gods, right? 9 months later, a normal, healthy baby appears. That baby will almost absolutely inherit an alignment leaning towards hydromancy. It is not impossible for a child to have a different alignment, but it is highly unlikely. Example number 2. A hydromancer and a pyromancer make a baby despite the fact that they're literally water and fire. I know, the stork sacrifice thing was stupid, and everyone really knows that both the boy and the girl pee in a baby-sized hole in the ground. I get it, jeez. What happens to this baby? Well, in our hypothetical scenario, we'll say that both magi are equal in power. If this is the case, then there really is no way to predict which alignment will be inherited. Example number 3. A powerful hydromancer and a weak pyromancer find love despite their differences and make a baby. I know where babies come from, guys. You don't need to correct me. Molded from clay and left out to dry in the sun, right? So how does this baby turn out? Well, similar to regular genetics, the more powerful the mage, the more dominant their magical alignment is. However, the greater the discrepancy between the two magi, the more likely it is that the child will inherit their more dominant parent's magical alignment. So, if a child is produced in a multi-aligned partnership, how does inheritance work? Do they just get magic A and can never learn magic B? What if they want to pick up magic C? Well, that's not too complicated, so let me break it down for you. In examples 2 and 3, a hydromancer and a pyromancer had a child. We'll say that in both cases, the child inherited a hydromancy-leaning alignment. This means that, on the proverbial scale of magical alignment from 0 to 10, 0 being unable to use the magic, 10 being only able to use this type of magic, the child starts at a 3 for hydromancy and a 2 for pyromancy. Therefore, it is not impossible for the child to decide they want to follow in their non-dominant parents' magical footsteps. What about in example 1 where 2 hydromancers had a baby? Well, the child obviously starts off with a 3 for hydromancy. If they decided to follow a different path, for example pyromancy, then they would start off with a 1 in whatever alignment they choose to follow. There are very few instances where a child would be born with an alignment of 0 and even fewer for alignments of 10. Even in adulthood, most magi are at least somewhat versed in 2, possibly 3 classes of magic. We'll get back to that scale in a second. Before that, let's cover how environment can affect alignment. The example we're going to use right now is Serena. Serena's biological family is cursed to be trees. How? Why? These are questions for another time. I don't have answers. But because she was exposed to the powerful magic that turned her family into trees, it essentially rewired her carrier cells to be more aligned towards floramancy, plant magic. Was her family already inclined towards it before being cursed? It's not likely because floramancy is a rare magic, but Serena herself has a very easy time casting these spells, picking them up almost by instinct. But let's look at a more pedestrian example. We'll say that you, as an average mage who has yet to decide how you want to specialize, move into a frost kingdom on the coast. And for the sake of this hypothesis, we'll also say that neither of your parents were hydromancers. As you continue to reside in your new home, you'll find that hydromancy spells are easier for you to pick up even if you don't actively pursue the art. This is because, living in a frost kingdom, you are frequently exposed to frost magic, even if it's only in trace amounts every day. It wouldn't necessarily start you off on a higher level on the scale, so simply visiting a frost kingdom for a week wouldn't put you at a 2 on a scale instead of a 1 if you'd never practiced hydromancy before, but it would make it easier for you to move up as you studied more. So if our magical alignment scale goes from 0 to 10, we can assume that a 5 or a 6 is competency with the magical class. We'll say that most people find their final alignment sit at about 7 or 8, which we'll call fluency. Is it possible for one person to be fluent with multiple classes, much less competent? At the very least, competent, yes. Magical competence is mostly just understanding how a magical class works and being able to manipulate it with general success. Fluency is a different story. I'm sure I've said this before, but true multi-alignment, that is, fluency with at least 2 magical classes, is something that does not happen. It is an impossible dream. There is only one living mortal who is confirmed to be multi-aligned, Swift. I would be willing to hear an argument that Swift is merely competent with his magics, not fluent, but this is not the time. Otherwise, only divine beings are capable of multi-alignment. Why not mortals? Well, there are several reasons why true multi-alignment does not occur in mortals. The most obvious reason is that each magical class requires decades of study for a caster to be considered fluent in that class. And this isn't high school history class studying, which is to say you kind of skim through the readings, maybe take notes, but at the end of the day, you've probably got it. No, this is full-on doctoral thesis studying. The effort it takes to master one class is so monumental and exhausting that it is physically impossible for one mage to be fluent in 2 classes. Well, there are actual real people in the real world with multiple doctorates. They just pursue them at different times. Why can't a mage do that? Well, for the same reason that your liver cells can't just migrate up and become brain cells. Once specialized, carrier cells don't take too well to or re-specializing. While it is certainly possible, you also have to consider the fact that changing specializations does remove one alignment in place of another, therefore weakening whatever class of magic those cells are specialized in. And fluency is also being able to use a class of magic as well as knowing how to do so. Carrier cells also do not multi-specialize, so going back to the liver and brain example earlier, your liver cells also cannot migrate to become brain cells while also functioning as liver cells. They like to pick one class and stick with it. Now, we have the physical and biological limitations, but what about the psychological limitations of the mage? Well, because carrier cells are located in the bloodstream and therefore travel throughout the body, casting magic sets off other chemical reactions inside of your brain which help it to adapt and internally protect you from your own magic. So, the process of becoming fluent in a second class of magic is not only psychologically stressful, but maddening as well, because your brain is being assaulted with a form of magic it doesn't know how to defend against. So your brain's only option, in a last-ditch effort to save itself, is to shut down parts of itself so that they are minimally affected by the rogue magic. This actually makes the shut down parts more vulnerable to magic, so they are drastically different when they are turned back on. So there's another reason why multi-aligning doesn't work. Now, what about 0 and 10 alignments? These are more unique situations, so there might not be a whole lot to say about this. Generally speaking, any creature that has an alignment of 10 in any class is an elemental. There are very few incidents of mortals reaching an alignment of 10, although I will say that this is something that happens. Alignments of 0 are technically incredibly common. Most humans are born able to use any magic they want to learn. The most notable exception, however, is light magic. As established, light is semi-sentient, meaning the magic itself has some sense of reason and understanding. To put it in another way, it is entirely possible that the light can find you unworthy and therefore render you unable to cast spells. There is some theory as to how or why this works, but we're not here to talk about that. The point is that, for most people, light alignment is 0. There is no way they can access the power of this magic no matter how hard they try. Retribution's magic behaves in a similar fashion, although it's not nearly as discriminatory as the light. Another quick tidbit, people who use light magic cannot harness void or shadow magic and vice versa. Now, why does all of this matter? Who cares about magical alignments? Let me counter this question with a similar question. Who cares what your skin color is? To an outside observer, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're still human no matter what you look like on the outside. To someone who lives within our society, you already know that your skin color matters a lot. After all, white Americans have spent the entirety of American history discriminating against and oppressing literally every other racial group. But I digress. The point for why alignments matter is similar. Various mage groups take their alignments seriously and have banded together to make entire kingdoms devoted to its magics. If they're fire or frost alignments. I can go more into mage kingdoms in another video, but the idea is that fire and frost magi, while not always the best of friends, see themselves as above others because of imagined notions that their magics are somehow stronger than others. Again, to us, this means nothing. To them, however, knowing a particular class or subclass of magic is enough to get you into some places, banned in others, and killed, on occasion. And I believe that's everything we need to know about magical alignments. Things were a little complicated, but we made it through. Join me back on Tuesday when we'll cover the character Iblis from Rebirth.
Hi, I'm Gabe, and it took me a lot longer than it should have to record this in slate. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing so you don't miss the next one. If you want more content from me, consider following me on Twitter, where eventually I'll tweet some more. If you want to learn more about anything I'm talking about or catch some details I missed, consider buying my books. Links are in the description below. Also consider checking out the Tumblr, where I post side stories and art about the books that I can't really put anywhere else. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.